I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 3rd, 2014 GBOS Municipal Staff Meeting, and we're so happy to have the Anchorage Assembly with us today. Thank you all for coming. I want to we'll go ahead and do the introductions first, and then we do have a little bit of change in the agenda. But if the Assembly would like to go ahead and introduce themselves.
Sure. Well, my name is Patrick Flynn. I have the dubious honor of being chair of the Anchorage Assembly. I do want to say thank you to the Girdwood Board of Supervisors and to the residents for accommodating a slight schedule change. For those of you who are familiar with how the Assembly conducts its business, we typically have work sessions on Fridays prior to our regular meetings. We don't take action at those meetings, but they're informational, so that hopefully we make better decisions when we do meet in our formal meetings. And so that's the context of our discussion today. We're here to learn a little bit more about the Girdwood community and about what the Board of Supervisors does. And I do want to also apologize. Only about half our membership's able to be here today. We had some folks out of town, but the folks who are here I know are looking forward to learning a little bit more about you. So thank you for your time.
Jennifer Johnson, Girdwood, India.
We just go around the table, Sam.
Oh, okay.
We'll just do everybody right now.
All right. Sam Daniel, I'm on the Board of Supervisors. I'm the Utilities Chair.
Elby Graves Hanson, I represent Midtown Anchorage. Along with my colleagues in training would be here if he wasn't out of town. And I'm truly honored to be here, and I'm really, really happy that I didn't get lost. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Amy Demboski, Anchorage Assembly. I represent Shuyak, Eagle River, and Jay Bear. And so I know many of your plights. We feel the same way. So glad to be here.
Yeah, I told her we're the other stepchild. Whatever. Treated that way. My name is Tommy O'Malley, and I'm on the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. Got elected on April Fool's Day. Thank you, everybody. And I am in charge of fire and public safety.
I'm Pete Peterson, Anchorage Assembly. I represent East Anchorage and Muldoon, Stubbington Heights area, and I was just elected on April Fool's Day as well.
Should have been a clue, huh?
Bill Evans, South Anchorage, Girdwood, Turning an Arm.
I'm George McCalis, the municipal manager, and I'd like the staff members that are here from the municipality to stand up and introduce themselves. And Jerry, Todd, go ahead.
Todd Sherwood, I'm in the Department of Law.
Tammy Oswald, the Real Estate Department.
Jerry Hanson, Project Manager, Engineering, Public Works.
Corey Robinson, Administration and Public Works.
John Rada, Parks and Recreation.
Jerry Weaver, Amy Bell.
Kyle Kelly, liaison to Girdwood.
Okay, and I'm Erin Eaker, co-chair of the GBOS, and I'm road supervisor. So far, we're missing David Chadwick, who is out ill today, and Robert Snitzer, I believe, is on his way. So hopefully we'll see him soon. Thank you all for coming. And so the couple changes I want to go ahead and make on our draft agenda is after item 1, we will then doing item 3, which is an update on the Girdwood Road pedestrian improvements, and then we will be doing item 6, the 2015 capital improvement request list, and then we'll be back to our normal order, number 2. So is everyone okay with that? So first up is the Crow Creek Road ownership. Did an update. Todd?
Yep, we got it.
Just kind of move this out of the way. I didn't know a ideal location. Hearing the Assembly member Demboski talk about Eagle River and Girdwood being the stepchildren reminded me of I was the North Slope Borough attorney for a number of years, and their Point Hope and Cactoba were kind of the ones that felt like stepchild around. So, for the Assembly members that haven't heard about this issue before, I'm going to give just a little background and history. The Board of Supervisors are very familiar with this, and probably some people in the audience is very familiar with this. And then tell you where things are at. So first, we're talking about Crow Creek Road, and so everybody knows where they're at. This is the road that goes out and ends up in a parking lot in the Chugach National Forest, and then you can do the Crow Pass hike or run that I've done all the way to Eagle River Nature Center. The basic issue is who is or who should be responsible for maintaining this road, who owns it or has a right-of-way of some sort. And it's been, and again, if there's somebody in the audience here, feel free to correct me if I'm misstating, because I've picked up a lot from people here, but it has a very long history, and it goes back to the early mining days. I mean, just track to get the gold mines out here. Part of that history is that the federal government in the pre-territory days and territory days did take a lot of responsibility for maintaining this. And then the state did for a number of years, but apparently never formally, and it's become somewhat informal, and there's been, as I understand it, kind of a, we don't really want to do that anymore. They do, just to describe the different sections of the road, because that's kind of part of the mystery too, but it's roughly 8 miles, and we call mile 0 down by the, where it comes off of the highway called the Seward Highway, and then it comes in and it goes. This is mile 2.7 from the Seward Highway, but that is where the bus turnaround is, and it takes that far. And the state takes care of that all the time. I believe that the state, to some degree, says they have a 2 mile plus 4.3, but they don't really do a lot of maintenance there. Then you've got this section here. You can see it borders what is state land and federal national forest land up to here, and that's kind of a no man's land that neither the state nor the federal government say they have anything to do with. Then here we've got Raven Mountain Estates, which is a subdivision, and I think there's about 130 people living out there. This subdivision was formed in 1966 under the Greater Anchorage Area Borough and accepted by the borough. And that's kind of important from a legal perspective, because there's an argument to be made that this is a municipal road. Now, that doesn't mean the municipality has an obligation to maintain it, because it's never been built to municipal standards. And then beyond that, it's federal, and for our purposes, we don't really care, because I think there's few, if anyone, living beyond, or maybe some minors. The concern has been the folks that live up here. They kind of have a sort of a loose net association that they voluntarily contribute to. It keeps this plowed down to the bus stop in the winter. There was an issue a couple of years ago with a bridge right here that was in bad shape and needed replacing. And ultimately what happened was state, federal, and the muni agreed to disagree. The feds provided some funding, and the bridge got built or repaired, as the case may be. So that's the background and history, and I wish I could say we had a really neat solution for this. We don't. What I'm going to end up telling you in the end, and I'll go through just a little more background, but ultimately it's not a legal answer, but it's a policy answer. And so one of the things that I learned in studying history of all this, that right from the Seward Highway here, all the way, you go on the Crow Pass Trail and go out the Eagle River Road at the other end, all of that is 37 miles total, and it's a designated RS 2477 trail, it's called. And if you love history and land law like I do, you get really excited when you hear things like that. And I do have, if you're as fascinated as I am, I've got a one-pager from state from DNR. But I'll be quick. Basically, and the RS stands for Revised Statute 2477. It's a federal law. It was passed in the 1880s. It was very pro-development. It was so miners could get into areas, unreserved federal land, put trails across it, however they were going to get in there. And that would be basically a public right-of-way. And So the law said the public right-of-way is for the state on unreserved federal lands, and that's how this started out. Maybe there's a mining road back there. You know, there's mining clear up off the trail, and you can see the chunk here still. I had hoped when I first got into this, because this was something I remember studying in law school and never really had to touch since, that maybe that was kind of a hook, a way to say, hey, state, you need to take care of this. But from a legal perspective, it isn't. I think from maybe kind of a moral authority, factual background, it might be a way to, because, for example, the end that goes from Eagle River Nature Center out, the state has chosen, and they're now, there's quite a project out there, as anybody knows that's driven through there. It takes you 3 times as long to get to the nature center. But there they made a choice on that piece of that trail. We're gonna really do things with this and maintain it. You know, they made a choice to do it up here. They made a choice when you're up in the mountains, when you get past the federal land, to maintain that trail as a trail and be responsible for it. I talked, and this is one of the things I was waiting for people to have heard me talk about this before. I talked extensively this last week to 2 different state attorneys to get just more legal background, because they deal with this all the time. One was a Department of Transportation attorney, the other was a DNR attorney. And Department of Transportation, no surprise, they're responsible for real roads. DNR is responsible for all the trails that fall under this law. And so I got a lot of information from them. One of the things that was pointed out to me that I have to say is a good point. The state, simply because something is a designated trail, and this one was designated in, I think it was 96 or 98, the state legislature had this long list of trails throughout the state that said, we're asserting RS 2477 rights on all these trails. And this is what happened at that time. But like I said, it doesn't obligate them to do something with it. And just some examples that were given me, for example, the Taylor Highway that goes to Chicken and Eagle, it's open in the summer, the state doesn't plow it. Even though it's a state road, they have said, we're not going to do anything with it in the winter. So it becomes a budgetary policy issue, or the Glacier Highway out of Juneau was mentioned. They keep it open as far as Hawk Bay, and in the winter they don't plow it, and there's people that live out there. So really, that's it in a nutshell. What my next step is, now that I talked to these attorneys last week, is kind of do a background paper, and then, from my view anyway, policymakers would decide what's the best way to go forward to try and get maybe the state to start doing some maintenance. I can take questions if you want. The other part of this, Jerry was going to talk about the grant, because there is, and that's kind of good news, I think, there's an effort to get a grant to do some maintenance here.
So we did get the grant?
Not yet. The good news is we're on the short list for this project. There's about $7 million, I understand, that's available under this project. So the bad news are the 23 projects that are short list. So we have requested a little over $680,000 for this project, and that we have to provide about a little over 9% match, which I think we can do with state legislature funds we've got to do that. So I'm hoping. That's what we've got right now. We're on the short list. And whether we get the full amount or they just provide a short amount, I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. So, this is as a result of one of our quarterly meetings when folks here at Girdwood requested that we look into the possibilities of grants. And so we did that, and we did apply for the grant. We actually had to apply twice. The first was an initial letter of interest and with detailed information, and then the last one was the actual grant request, which was pretty extensive. The packet looked really, really good that the folks put together. So I think it's a very competitive package, but not knowing what the other ones that we're competing against, it's awful hard to say. But to be shortlisted, I mean, that's a good sign. And then there's further evaluations, and then they'll decide who gets it or not. But that's the one clean way of at least bringing that portion of the road up to some semblance of standard. And then the decision at that point is, as I understand it, is that between that association and the Girdwood Board of Supervisors and the Girdwood residents to decide whether or not they would like to bring them into your road service area. And of course, that's your call. But other than that, there's really not much relief for those folks out there. The state is pretty earnest in their opinion. And of course, the way we have to operate is service areas, and that is outside a designated service area. So that's where we're at, and we're hopeful that we'll get the grant.
I did. I think everybody skipped over the basic project description, length of road, cost of the project. I didn't hear that. Was I just not listening? We talked Hill Street, but I don't, how long is the road? How much do you expect it's gonna cost?
Well, from the Seward Highway, it's 8 miles to the end, but the grant would be for what section? It's just within the subdivision, right? Yeah.
Actually, the grant, because I brought you guys the grant. It's a federal state grant, and it's to be used to provide access to federal lands and trailheads. And so that's why this worked. And I think, the 680,000 is sort of also the limitations of the grant and how you had to apply for it. We have a really good advocate that's on the side of the quality.
I still didn't quite hear the description. I mean, so the grant is for that portion, but you're looking for, are you paving it all the way back?
Drainage, fixing it up, trying to bring it up.
And what do you think the entire cost of that upgrade will be?
Well, I don't know what the entire cost is, because clearly the portion that we're talking about there, you can make one heck of an argument that the municipality through history is responsible from the standpoint that it's municipal road. The portions outside of that is a different story, and so whether we'd be able to do any work on those other portions, even if we had the money, is questionable, because it's a split, as was mentioned, between the feds and also the state. Now,
Sorry. I did talk to the attorneys a little bit about that, and they can't make these decisions, but it's not unusual for, say, state. I mean, obviously, because it's RS 2477, and it's a public right of way, the state could, and we could, assuming we had lots of money, or, if there was a service area, if this was brought into the service area, presumably you could get permission from the state to maintain the whole thing, but first you need a source of funding. And one of the things they said that they can't really say officially is things happen on these RS 2477 trails all the time that aren't officially sanctioned with permit, and the state kind of looks the other way. I'm not at all saying that's what should happen. I think, whenever we get to a point of this is what's going to happen, if it involves a municipality, then you want some kind of agreement.
well, and again, the capital is one thing, and then you've got to figure out the maintenance of it, once that's done. So.
And to answer your question as far as the overall funding, that subdivision has a unique history. It was platted by the school district because that was the only platting. They were the only ones that could do platting within the borough, and so the platting itself has, that's shown limitation as far as the road itself. And what they have in that subdivision is a lot of drainage problems and a lot of issues, so that if it was decided by the Girdwood Board of Supervisors and the Girdwood community to the step down as part of the service district area, there needs to be some capital improvement just in their drainage and then just their basic road service. So it's not a matter of paving, it's just bringing it up to a point where it can be maintained.
My only question is, this is a federal fund source, what specifically is the fund source that we're discussing?
I was trying to remember what I said.
Jerry, do you remember the fund source of the granting authority? that we're applying to?
I'm not sure, it's called the Federal Lands Access Program, Alaska Federal Lands Access Program.
Okay, so it's from the Department of Interior, presumably, something like that?
I don't know exactly what.
Yeah,
what
I'm sorry, I'll get it to you.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Curiosity, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just as a point of reference, both for the folks from the muni and public at large, the reason this is such a big issue to us is because this is the only subdivision up Crow Creek Road. And those folks are all part of the municipality. It's the only way for them to get down. And in the winter time specifically, it becomes a huge issue for them with accessing the community. So they've chosen to use one of the local road service contractors to maintain that road in the winter time. But because of the drainage and the glaciation and those kinds of things, it's very challenging for them to get down off that road. And that particular subdivision is one of the few places that a lot of the young people here, meaning the 20s and 30-somethings, can actually afford to buy property and start a home. It's off the grid. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but they're an important part of the community. And from my perspective as a supervisor, it's a very important question for us to look at. And we appreciate the fact that this effort's being made and that the grant's being applied for, because until we know how much it's going to cost, that's a decision the community would need to make. But it's an important question for us to ask, and I'm pleased that it's moving forward.
Tell me.
Yeah, and also the people that live up the road, their kids go to school here, they get their mail here, but they can't vote. And there's no one to vote for. They're not part of our district, so they're unrepresented by who they're represented by. Used to, yeah, but they're not in any service area that they go to. Another complication is that up along that road, I believe the state put in a trailhead, big, beautiful, with outhouses and everything, on a road that they don't say is theirs, but it's beautiful, big parking lot. And then there's another trailhead at the very top that's also for the state, Chugach State Forest. So, I mean, they're inhabiting it, but they don't take responsibility for it. And Todd has done a really great job ferreting out the information on it. And I think once we know a little bit more, I'm confident that the people here in Girdwood would accept those people in. Their tax status would have to go up. But I mean, there have been years when they had to use snow machines to get their kids to the school bus stop.
Thank you, Dr. Talbot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we turn up the heat? Put in this room.
Kyle, can you turn up the heat?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I can grab my jacket.
Should have warned you. That's the one.
When I realized it was going to be 2 hours, I figured I better speak up now.
It's gonna keep going that.
Kyle's really good at watching the budget for us. This is part of it.
Well done, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions for Jerry or Todd on this project? Thank you. And Jerry, you're going to stay up there to update us on the Girdwood Road?
Yeah. A couple of projects. We'll start out with Mountain Loop. As some of you know, a portion of this was federally funded. And the agreement we have with the DOT is we will do the design, they will do the contracting, and the construction management. The design was completed earlier this summer, given to the DOT to start their process. We had another project in town, and for whatever reasons they wanted to join those two up for scale of economy. They don't like to put out projects. So it got delayed. We had to go back in, redo the plans to put those two projects together, and then just not too long ago, we got word from them, they pulled that project in town and said, we'll put them out separately. So we had to go back in, redo the plans for Olympic Mountain Loop so we could put it out separately again. I was told from DOT that Olympic Mountain Loop is the next project that the person at DOT has that's going to take down to their purchasing officer, and so they will put that out to bid this fall. It's the next project, so they can get started on it first thing in spring.
What are they going to start? Are they starting construction? Are they starting the bid process?
They're starting the bid process here this fall. They will have a contract under contract and plan on starting the construction in the spring.
Only 3 or 4 years ago.
It's 10. It's 10.
I know, but even, from the last time we reset.
That's why I don't like to get federal funds involved. But if that's the only funding you got. So, any questions on Olympic Mountain Loop? As far as the Hightower Road, the updated master plan was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and what we're doing now is we have a consultant that did that work. They were hired before the design. We're negotiating the contract with them to start the design on that. So that should be going forward here very shortly.
Patrick?
Which part of Hightower Road, beyond the new town center?
Coming this way.
Come this way, this side, the glass side. Okay, okay. To the library.
Yeah.
Got it.
And you want to, on the Aliaska Highway Pedestrian Safety Corridor?
Yes, the community was successful last year in lobbying $3 million to improve the safety corridor from Croquet Road down to the train trestle. If you've been on it, you'll know how bad it's become. So DOT is taking management of that as their right of way, and they will actually be here at the GBOS regular meeting in 2 weeks to give a presentation on that. What we understood is that that's going to happen in 2016. They're combining the improvements of Aliaska Highway at the same time with the improvements of the bike path, and getting 2 projects done at once there. So that's slated right now to start in 2016, but they will be giving a briefing to the community in 2 weeks of regular meeting.
Any questions for Kyle on pedestrian safety corridor? Thank you, Kyle. So as I said, we are going to skip on to item number 6, the 2015 Girdwood State Capital Improvement Request.
Okay. I had Maury pull out the 2015, in this draft, CIB improvements for the Girdwood area, and I've got a list of them here. I'll pass that around. That is draft right now. I mean, others can be added so that things change for whatever reason. One of the questions that was asked was about the Arbor Road extension going up towards the access of Winter Creek there. As a little bit of history, the municipality received a $3.5 million legislative grant in 2011. We, the Aliaska Development requested that they do the design and construction of that road behind there. They've also got some other work in there. We got approval from the assembly and entered into what's called Improvement to Public Place Agreement with them, where they are responsible for designing and constructing improvement, and we have just oversight of the work they do to approve the design, and they basically hire a contractor to do construction and do the inspection on that. The original grant was for $3.5 million. I don't know where that figure came from. Right now, we've been working with Aliaska Development and their engineer their latest engineer's estimate, just for construction, is in excess of the original grant. It's about $3.6 million. It includes a parking lot, toilets at the end of the road. There's access points. Also, the original estimate did not include cost for wetlands mitigation credits that have to be purchased, and they're not cheap. Right now, the current estimate for the project cost is about $5.8 million. So we're about $2.3 million short, which we will be putting into the CIP and putting it into the legislative request for an additional $2.3 million.
And that includes the trailhead for the trail system.
No, it doesn't include the trail. It includes a parking lot right
Parking
there.
lot.
It's
Yeah.
a fairly small parking lot, and we're looking at putting some bathrooms in there too. That, the developer wants to see how it goes.
Ms. Johnson, as you may remember, that area that he's talking about as far as the parking lot, it's supposed to actually serve two functions. One is a turnaround, so they can get back down the road, and then it's also going to be designed so we'll also receive automobiles from the trailhead. So.
And it was my understanding that they ran into always normal, the surprise, more wetland issues than they had anticipated.
I think the engineering firm that they hired to do their initial work and then their estimates didn't account for the difficulties they're going to have in all the wetlands there, and I think that's why the estimate was so low.
And I guess if I could backtrack a little bit, because one of our initial, or kind of our question in regards to this is because we have already put forward our capital improvement list with our 3 projects. And this came about in our September meeting, that the resort came forward asking for, wanted to get added onto the CIP list for additional funds to finish their project. And so we wanted some advice on adding a supplemental funding request because we don't want it to take away from our original 3 projects, which we feel very strongly about. And so they asked us to think about that, and we wanted to get the list.
And the assembly can add to the list, but it won't, so it will be on the list, but it won't be your priorities.
Right.
But it'll still be legislative.
And you have the benefit of having the 2 co-chairs of our legislative committee here, and the former co-chair is still on it. I'll tell you, this is the kind of project that'll be in our book that we send to our legislative delegation. But its success or failure will really depend on local contact with the local legislative delegation in general. Because it's a big list, there's a lot of stuff on it, and if we get 10% funded, it's a good year. So
This year might be 5.
just fair warning.
No, understandable. We just wanted to make sure because especially the comprehensive road and training study is kind of our top priority just to move forward in the future, and we just didn't want it to have any negative effect on it. So I appreciate that. Any other questions in regards to the CIP list?
And actually, just to add to Patrick, and we've had this discussion before with GBOS, it really is very important for the community at large to speak with their legislators on the priorities versus, we are doing it sort of for the whole municipality, but I know that there's been times that there's been concern that Girdwood doesn't get what they feel they should from the legislators, and it really is your direct communication that makes most sense.
And a unified message.
And a unified message.
What's most important first.
And that's what happened last year with the safety program.
And for those of you that don't know, I believe that the capital improvements project list is on the back table, but we put forward the top 3 projects we take one for each area. In our roads, it's the comprehensive road and drainage improvement study. For facilities, it is the Girdwood multipurpose community room, which would house Little Bears, the Girdwood Clinic, and then a recreation center. And then for Parks and Rec, it's the Alyeska Playfield and Moose Meadow parking lot improvement study and design, because as we're growing, that parking lot is not sufficient. It's causing problems having people park on the side of the road. It's become a safety hazard, so that is the third project that we're putting forward. And I don't know if Kyle wants to expand on any of them or not, or.
Now he covers it.
Just, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a little comment. I think, based on my own personal experience with the training on our constituents, that when your representatives, Ms. Johnson, Mr. Evans, go to Juneau, a couple of you may want to join them, because I found it to be most effective when we were dealing with our constituents for requests. Even with the fact that money's going to be different this year or next year, that would be my suggestion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We appropriated money, put it in our budget to have at least one of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors around there, but that was vetoed by someone.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, I'm not wealthy by no means, and I really don't have a lot of money, but I think I'm okay. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Jennifer, did you have something?
Well, I think, wasn't it that it was it can't be part of your service and part of the budget for what you were supposed to be putting the efforts on? Wasn't it?
That's correct. It was a legal issue.
It was a legal issue. It wasn't anything to do with whether you were voting on it. It was, you are a defined service area for your roads, for your follow and for your recreation.
And I was going to say too, one of the most effective tools that we used for the Eagle River delegation was projects that already had partial funding and that had already started. It was very easy for our legislators to focus on and say, okay, well, we have partial funding, we don't want it to lapse, or we've already started. So those were the projects that it seemed like they had less resistance getting funding for those. So that's just something, don't forget you have that leverage, because that was a very powerful message, and I would say, use any means that you can to try to seal the deal, especially when you have funding for carpet.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? We're going to go back to item number 2, which is an update on the Trinity Armed Service Coalition.
So, you want me to start that? I met with them last year.
Certainly, yes.
Okay. Well, I think for those in the coalition that came to Anchorage, I think we had a pretty productive meeting about the project. And one of the things that was asked, that facility, once the fundraising and everything else took place and that the facility was built, that it would be a municipal facility. And I was requested to send a letter to that effect, and there's one being drafted, and it's in the legal department, so that will come to my signature here shortly. The one issue, of course, that needs to be resolved, and we talked about that, is the operating of it, how you are choosing to operate it, whether you want municipality to operate it, or whether one of the folks that will be the largest group in there, if they want to be the managing folks for that particular facility through an agreement with the MOA, or however. So those operating agreements, are left to be worked out yet. And then, of course, one of the things that we did talk about was that, and this is going to be a very nice facility. It really is pretty impressive what you want to do. But with a facility like that, as always, there are certainly operating costs. And so hopefully, as you're going through this, there can be a determination made as to what those operating costs would be, so that everybody knows right up front that there'll be an additional levy of taxes, I would assume, by the supervisors to cover those costs. So I think that during the planning phase, you know, we need to make sure that all of that is factored in. And we'll help you with that, so don't worry about that. So anyway, if I may take liberty, is there anything I did not divulge that we discussed?
I think that the Rasmussen Foundation is asking that the municipality also commit to operating the facility either through the GBOS or the parks portion of GBOS.
Okay.
So.
And that's something that we can work out, but again, there's all kinds of ways of working out an operating agreement. So we can.
And we just found out that they also want the owner and operator to make application to get into the pre-development program.
Oh, so that's like breaking news. Okay, deal's off. Well, we'll have to figure that out because
I'll sign it and you'll write it down.
Well, we typically don't do that, so, but we'll see.
If I may speak to that, Madam Chair, that's not uncommon. Many of us interact with the Rasmussen Foundation at different levels because they do partner with us on a number of municipal projects. And getting the early buy-in by getting them engaged in the pre-development process makes a big difference in looking forward and how effectively we fund the project. So, I know it's late breaking news, but it's not a surprise to me. And I think it's an important step.
But we'll work through that. So, I think if you would please, early next week, if one of you would just give me a call and let me know exactly what it is you want this letter to say, so I can get it revised now that we know all these other things here. Okay? Or just send me an email. Or send me an email so that we can go ahead and take a look at it and see how we want to approach it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just make one quick comment on behalf of GBOS, and it's my understanding from our last meeting that we are in support of going ahead with the pre-development and making sure the community can afford the building, and we recognize the need for the facility. We just want to make sure that after this process has happened, that it's going to be something that we can sustain, and at that time we'd be more than happy to sign up, I think, on the building, but we just want to make sure it's going to be the right thing for the community and with the price involved. So.
And I will couch my letter to the effect that, because you're right, I mean, you will be on the hook, so you certainly need to make sure you know what you're getting into.
Right, and that's what we're in support of finding out.
Right. So I will try to couch my letter so that everybody understands that you still have to give a stamp of approval since you're going to end up paying.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Any other comments, Sam or Tom, from our last meeting on
Our resolution was to support the pre-approval process. Did you get a copy of that already?
the pre-development?
Pre-development.
Any other comments, questions, asked? Well, we were hoping for an update on the Girdwood School remodel. We just got an email at 3 o'clock today that they were not going to attend our meeting. And this, I guess we want to just kind of bring up because we also asked them to come to our last Board of Supervisors meeting, and they just sent a kind of a letter update. We're trying to find out where their budget is, and we think that there was a contingency large enough in there to make sure that our running track got included. We are hoping to find out more today, but we know nothing.
Is Mike Abbott who you're dealing with on that?
Kyle, who's?
Calvin Budd, the project manager.
So we continue to ask the questions, and we continue to not get clear answers.
What you might do is when you write these emails, is copy Mike Abbott on it, and copy Mr. Evans and myself.
Yeah, because I know that the community was very supportive, obviously, of the project because of we need the size for the children, but also we are kind of the only junior high in the municipality that doesn't have any type of under facility. And that was a big push that the community was behind the expansion for the school. And so it's a little bit distressing for us to hear that, well, we're going to put in the infrastructure that someday you might be able to have a track, even though it was signed off that we could have one in the beginning.
Yeah, and our school is different than other schools in Anchorage because we have the only community school in the state of Alaska here. And our school is a community building more than neighborhood schools are. Also, if a high school or junior high school doesn't have a facility, they can go across town or go to the high school next door or someplace like that. And we don't have that capacity down here. So for our kids to be able to compete or even to work at fitness, we really need indoor track. We get more snow down here 5 times as much, and our running season is shorter because of that. And without this track, we lose out, our kids lose out. And it becomes the concern of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors because we grant funds to the community school for recreation, which takes place at that building. So this is a community concern that the track was in the plan, and for whatever reasons, and we haven't got those answers like Aaron said, that it's being dismissed. Now, Girdwood has one of the highest rates of voting for approval for school bonds of any precinct in the district, or in the community or municipality of Anchorage. And with 93 schools, you don't get another chance for, what were you thinking, 40 years before we would have another chance for more funding down here? If they give 2 schools a year of funding. We just got ours, so we really want this to happen.
Yes.
I'm more than a little distressed that the school district advised you at 3 o'clock this afternoon that they wouldn't be showing up or sending a representative. This is a huge project for Girdwood. Over $20 million is being spent on our school. And I think I'd like to suggest that the Board of Supervisors formally request an update of their monthly meetings on the progress of the project, and especially as everybody has spoken to the track issue. And I'll leave it at that.
And we did formally request them to be at our September meeting, and we did formally request them to be at this meeting, but we will continue.
Maybe if the chairman suggested you should, maybe if there's
I think we'll be
something
CCing in a few more
send it
people.
up the ladder somewhat.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I think, especially that your assembly members are here, and I get a little bit in trouble for dabbling other people's business, but I'm more than happy, personally as an assembly member, to send an email to the superintendent and CC my cabinet and say, what's the deal? These people deserve an explanation, and you should show up. And I'm sure your assembly members are going to do the same thing. So I'll just put it out there that myself, I'll do it. And I'm sure Ms. Gray Jackson, she can pull it right in. I'm sure she can. You're welcome. But we can do that for you. The more people that chime in, and the more pressure that they have to show up and answer the questions, I think better.
Any other questions?
Just
Yes.
one quick comment. When my son, who is now 22, was a kindergartner, I started working on this project for the school expansion. And at that time, a gentleman named Lou Thieves was involved. And he went on from that time to serve on the school district's advisory committee and shepherd that process all the way to the point where if it was not for his efforts, his personal efforts, we would never have gotten this school grant. And he is sitting in the back of the room, and I would like to recognize him. much, Lou, for all of your efforts.
Thank you, Sam. Next up is the clarification of GBOS as Community Council ex officio.
So, I've been brought into this issue fairly recently, and so again, feel free to correct me. What do I know about this? So, for quite a few years, Girdwood Board of Supervisors has served as ex officio community council. One of the problems, as I understand it, well, first of all, I guess the reason it's ex officio, as was mentioned last time, small population, there's just not enough people willing to be on boards and commissions in order to have a full-blown community council. One of the problems was that for one time, ex officio wasn't defined, and so it wasn't exactly clear how they operate, what do they do, what does that mean. In February of this year, there were some amendments to the community council ordinance, and ex officio was defined, although it's not clear that clarified it a lot. It says ex officio membership shall be non-voting members. So, as I understand it, there's still this desire to know exactly what can we do, what can't we do. I mean, one of our, off the top of our head, having not looked at this too much, opinions was it would be important to have two distinct separate meetings. They could be at the same time, same day, so to speak, but the Board of Supervisors would kind of gavel out of one and gavel into another, and they're sitting in a different capacity. It's not clear, for example, to what degree can they comment on things, you know, because it would seem it doesn't have the same status as another community council. It seems to us that certainly they would be the one to receive notices about land use and zoning issues. One of the other things that happened in July of 2014, there was an Assembly Information Memorandum where bylaws are submitted to the Assembly from various community councils. And on Girdwood, that one said, based on the status of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors as an ex officio community council, and on the recommendation of the Ombudsman, the Assembly Rules Committee recommends deferring review of the bylaws for this special ex officio community council until its history and special circumstance can be further explored. And Daryl Hess, the Ombudsman, and I have talked about this a little bit. He kind of, besides the people in Girdwood, seem to be getting this issue going because he's an ex officio member of the Community Council Committee. So the idea is that he and I and Julia Tucker, who's the Assembly Council, and I think maybe Assemblymember Johnson is going to work with us. So we're going to have kind of an ad hoc committee, obviously wanting input from anybody in Girdwood because, you know, there's possible solutions are, do you want to have a full-blown community council? There's a process for that, the ordinance. And, or if not that, then what more can we do to clarify by ordinance what ex officio membership means and what you can do with that?
And to go one step further, this all, as you know, sort of came about because there was discussion in Girdwood as far as your lands committee and, you know, who could vote, who couldn't vote. And that, in some respects, I think GBOS, as ex officio, has also sort of delegated that to the lands committee. So I really think it's something that Girdwood needs to sort of sort out themselves before we step into it. As far as how you want, because as you know, if you have liquor license or anything to do with planning and zoning down here, it goes to lands committee and then it comes to GBOS. And I think you need to figure out how you want that to look so that then when we go to define it, we come up with something that works for everybody.
Sam?
To key into what Ms. Johnson is saying here, and I know I'm going to sound like the old guy in the room, but when I first became a member of the Land Use Committee, and I was on it for 7 years, I believe, the way that it was presented to me was that we formed a Land Use Committee because we needed a community council. And it was back when we had the deal when Rita worked at the Merck, for those of you that have been around a long time, and there was a big deal about the Board of Supervisors being an elected body and therefore not necessarily being qualified as a community council. And so we formed the land use committee for that specific reason. And it was so that groups like the folks up Crow Creek Road had a voice in the community. And so my understanding is that the land use committee is in fact the community council, and that they are an advisory body to the Board of Supervisors, which is in turn an advisory body to the Assembly. And that's the premise that I think the land use committee actually operates under. At least the guys that were on there when I was on there thought that.
Anna?
Yeah, I'm dredging up in the midst of memory, and my recollection is the same as yours, Sam.
Oh, good.
Plus, for years, there was one annual meeting when the land use committee was convened. We then convened a meeting of the community council annually, which we needed to do to keep it alive, and elected officers and asked for business. And according to Brooks Chandler, who then lived here, that was what we needed to do to maintain this status as a community council.
And it's my understanding, and Chris, you might want to chime in here, because it's my understanding that GBOS became the ex officio community council when Chris was involved, and that was the word that he kind of threw out, and then it kind of became the documentation that I've seen. But my suggestion would be, as you were saying, that if you had the land use committee as a community council and you had GBOS, which should be quite separate, or they could be quite separate, and if that were the case, then you need to look at the new rewrite that was done as far as community councils in code, and then you could use that to come up with your bylaws for the land use committee, so then it was very much the community council for Girdwood. And that would be the simplest way to go. I'd rather not go down the squirrely road if we didn't have to.
Well, I'm guessing I have a file on it someplace because I never throw anything away. So I will make a note to try to find that.
And I just concur with that. And the reason it worked well for so long is that the GBOS is busy enough, just as the Assembly is, that when we have our meetings, our agendas are full. The land use committee is a one person, one vote. If you live here, own a business, you're a nonprofit, you got to vote. So the people that show, it's democracy in its truest form. And for many years, those of us that were on the committee abstained from voting. So I always thought it was a great example of democracy in process, because all those people who were in the room were the decision makers. And it worked very well as a sounding board for matters within the community that weren't necessarily going to come in front of the Board of Supervisors. And then land use would report back, and the chairman of the supervisor for that group would speak to whatever that issue was.
And with that, when it comes to planning and zoning issues, even though you are making recommendations to GBOS, if you are the community council, then that material would come right to the Assembly. And so the whole, it's not that GBOS shouldn't be involved, but that's what the community council does. They make community recommendations on liquor license and on planning and zoning issues. And it's separate from a service area, which is what GBOS is. And I think that's why it got kind of convoluted, because it might not have been the community council back with the stuff I saw that Chris Holding helped years ago. So anyways, my suggestion is to get together with Daryl Hess and work on your bylaws, and so that everything is up to code, and we don't have to have this really mess.
For those of you who have never met Daryl Hess, he was the longtime president of the Fairview Community Council, part of my district. He's a tremendous asset and a really great guy. I'm excited to work on this thing. So I think it'll be very helpful to you this evening and help you think of all the different permutations that you might want to consider. So good resource for you to use.
Questions, comments? Well, now we are moving on to the Girdwood Community Organization. so we'll have him present. I think each organization is given 2 to 3 minutes to kind of let us know what you're doing in the community, and then there'll be time for any questions. And first up is Girdwood 2020.
Thank you. I'm Diana Livingston. I'm co-chair of Girdwood 2020 along with Lynn Johnson. Girdwood 2020 was formed in the year 2000 with the mission of advocating for the community and representing it before decision makers at the municipal, state, and federal level to enable some infrastructure development. And I don't know if any of you remember what Girdwood was like in the year 2000, but it actually has improved a lot, thanks to the efforts of a lot of people. We work on infrastructure, drainage, roads, building facilities, and Girdwood 2020 enjoys a strategic partnership with the community through the Girdwood Board of Supervisors and through Alyeska Resort, and we kind of bring our weapons to bear on wherever they need to be. So, let's see, Girdwood 2020 has a board of 25 and members of over 800. Doesn't cost anything to join Girdwood 2020, and we encourage everybody to join. We have a committee that meets with the decision makers starting in the fall to actually pitch the Girdwood capital requests and add whatever needs to be added. So we will be working on this list. Whether you guys can go to Juneau or not, we'll be there. And we have a small staff. We have Lene Doran is the executive director. Wave your hand. And she does a great job and is very valuable to us. And we employ a legislative consultant to lobby for us in Juneau. He does a great job for us, Dave Parrish, who I'm sure you guys all know. And he does work closely with the municipal lobbyists too. Very valuable folks. We've successfully helped get funding for a lot of capital projects, road improvements, trail improvements. Let's see, I had a list here, but then I got nervous because I only got 2 minutes. Trail improvements and let's see, buildings, of course. And the projects that we have in the hopper now, we have a committee that's actively working with the DOT liaison to make the Seward Highway safe between at least Girdwood and Anchorage, so you guys don't get smashed up on your way to and from. And that's been very fruitful. We've been working with them for a couple of years now, and we finally saw our ultimate goal is to have a 4-lane divided highway between Girdwood and Anchorage. And I finally saw that in their long-range plan. They have the words a 4-lane divided highway. So I tried not to get too excited, but I am excited about that. And we will be working on the question of the Arbor extension. I think Tommy and Sam underscored how important this is. This extension carries out and opens up the Upper Valley to our 5K multiple use trail system. And there are 10 more K have been designed. And I talked to the president of Girdwood Nordic Ski Club the other day, and she said that that she's kind of recovered from the first 5K and she's ready to start working on the next 10K. So we totally approve of that, and that will open the door to having sanctioned Nordic races in Girdwood, which is a huge deal for us. And so we won't let up until we get those 25 parking places at the end of the extension and the toilets. And probably within the next 5 years or so, we're going to be looking for a bigger trailhead facility because people use the current 5K trail a lot in all times of year. And I must be running out of time. And we want to enhance that asset. So I guess that Girdwood 2020 is proud to work with the community and as a resort. And if we can do anything that anybody thinks of to make that work better, I'd like to hear about it. Any questions?
Thank you, Diane.
I'll just tell you, you're lucky you have such a gracious chair. My colleagues play a little bit harder on people. Time limits.
What can I block that? Girdwood Inc. Mr. Von Enthal.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming down here to Girdwood. And I am the former president and board member of Girdwood Inc., a nonprofit organization that we formed in the year 2004. So it's been in existence for about 10 years. And the goal was to support emerging groups and projects in the community. The first major project was rehabilitation of the roundhouse at Alyeska to make a museum and visitor center. It was opened in 2008 and has been operated successfully since. It was a $2 million project. Originally, the building was scheduled to be demolished, and when I came back to the resort, I said, no, I want to save that building, and we were able to save it, but we had to raise a lot of funds to put it and make a museum out of it. And hope someday when you ride out the tram, you have a chance to look in there. It tells the history of Girdwood and Alyeska in a real colorful way. Concurrently, Girdwood Inc. provided organization support for the task force funding and building of the Girdwood Parish Library and Community Meeting Room, the facility you're here today. This project was accomplished with the municipality of Anchorage acting as project manager. This was a $6 million project that was opened and dedicated in 2008 and has been successfully serving the community since then. We're all very proud this is a great place compared to what we used to have before. Girdwood Inc. supports the Girdwood Health Center. I've got to give them credit, they have done a fabulous job over the years. The Girdwood Nordic Ski Club and Trinity Arm Health Center in their really formative stages. These organizations all proceed to become independent nonprofit entities and operating successfully to serve Girdwood community. Girdwood Inc. provides ongoing support for most of the 22 immersion groups it has sponsored since 2004. Girdwood's major new project funding and construction is the funding and construction of a multi-purpose community building to house Little Bears Playhouse, Girdwood Health Center, and Fitness Center, Visitor Service, and is strongly supported by Girdwood Inc. So I just wanted to know we have quite a few projects that we have been co-sponsoring and supporting any way we could, and using our nonprofit status to get funding. Gail Goodwin couldn't be here today. She's our current president, and Anne is a long-term treasurer. That lady, she puts in more hours for Girdwood than anyone I know of. So with that, thank you for your support over the years, and Girdwood will continue to hopefully make progress. Any questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
And if you want to have any history as far as, Chris has lots of history, but one of the main things that Chris did for Girdwood was AWWU was here because of Chris.
Yeah, or otherwise we would be down the sewer.
I was hoping to have someone else from Rotary speak on Girdwood Rotary, but I guess I'm this year's president and I'm here. Most of you, I think, are all familiar with Rotary and all the international projects that they do. And Girdwood Rotary also teams with other Rotary clubs around Anchorage, around the state, to do state projects. But part of what we do here locally is 3 times a year we do sewer and highway cleanup from about Berg Point on for a couple miles. We do the playground cleanup and repair and paint 2 to 3 times a year. This year we've teamed up with Imagination Library, which does books for preschoolers and toddlers throughout the Anchorage Bowl, including Girdwood. We team up with the Girdwood School for a number of different functions, one of which is volunteering for junior achievement. We supported for several years the 7th and 8th grade students going to Washington on a field trip, and also do the 8th Grader of the Year award. We work with the fire department to help install smoke detectors and CO detectors. Yearly we do Thanksgiving baskets for those in need here in the valley. We put on the local health fair, which actually is here tomorrow. And then we work with, I think, 4 Valleys with the Angel Tree. This year we volunteered at the Allies for Climathon, which is the cancer research fundraiser, and we'll be doing that. I think the clinic has asked us to do that in the future with them. And that's all I have. Girdwood Lions. We have someone here? Nobody? 4 Valleys, I know we have here.
I'm going to go stand first on our last people. My name is Beth Davidson. I'm the chair of the 4 Valleys Community School Board. 4 Valleys Community School has been in this community for well over 30 years. It started out originally under the Anchorage School District, and then morphed into, there was a statewide community school nonprofit organization that multiple community schools were under. And when the budget for that fell through, then 4 Valleys became its own nonprofit and started its own organization here. We have 10 board members, and this year we have 2 staff people. In normal years, we actually have our executive director, Catherine McDermott, and we have 2 assistants. Because of the school construction this year, we are scaled back a little bit in our staffing. 4 Valleys offers local residents of the 4 turning in our communities, Bird, Indian, Rainbow, Girdwood, and Portage, so it's really more like 5 communities. Year-round learning opportunities and community-enhancing activities. We practice 3 basic components of community education, lifelong learning, community involvement, and efficient use of resources. Our office and main facility is located in the Girdwood School. It has been for many years. And because of the construction this year, that's why we're scaled back a little bit on staffing this year. That has also made us scale back on our programming this year. Normally, we typically offer about 250 classes yearly, broken into 3 program sessions. And we are definitely, because of the lack of having a gym facility, we are scaled back in the programs we can offer because there's just limited space available in the Girdwood community, particularly for gym-type activities. The majority of our time is allocated to developing, promoting, and managing community classes. We recruit our instructors, we schedule the facilities, we advertise the programs, we register students, we go monitor all the classes. We offer a wide spectrum of classes for all ages. It's not just for the little types and the teenagers, but we also have a lot of adult classes. We offer scholarships for anyone who cannot afford the program registration fees and the class fees. And a couple years ago, we actually implemented a new computer system called ActiveNet to handle all our registration. We also use ActiveNet to handle registration for other organizations. For example, the Arts Camp is held every year here, and we actually do the registration for their organization for their Arts Camp, which helps support them. We do work closely with a lot of agencies in town, the Regular Sports Service, the Municipality Parks and Plans, the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. We also work closely with all the other local nonprofits to provide needs for our communities and where we have mutual needs. 4 Valleys is supportive of local events. We help support the health fair that's going to be here tomorrow. We are also the owners of the community sports swap that happens. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. And then we also support with the Angel Tree. The Gold Stitchers is a local quilting club who creates and donates a quilt annually usually, and we help support that organization as well. We also offer have a community service award every year to local volunteers that get nominated for that award. So we have a tie very closely with the community for many, many years. We do have a very strong relationship with the Anchorage School District. Obviously, we're housing their building. We have a very good partnership with them, and we love the fact that we have that close partnership with the school district. We do feel very strongly about the running track. We feel that the running track is not only supportive of our program for our kids, but it's supportive of the community program as a whole. That's about all for Fort Valley, unless you guys have questions.
The Girdwood Community School is the only community school left in the whole state.
My understanding is we're the last standing traditional community school, at least in the South Central. There are some other community school-like organizations, but they're not traditional model community schools. So for instance, Cooper Landing has community school type activities, but they don't have the traditional community school model before and everything like that. And I think there are some down in the Southeast Alaska area that also offer community classes as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Is anyone here from the Girdwood Chamber? Yes, Tom.
I'm not from the Girdwood Chamber of Commerce, but the Girdwood Chamber of Commerce undertook to, here, let me show you. There's a bag of no value. You can only have $49 on drive. This is in this bag. There's one for every assembly member, and in this bag are flyers from businesses here in Girdwood, industries, tourism, manufacturing. Because they wanted to show that Girdwood is not just another neighborhood like Ocean View. If you from Ocean View, I don't mean that, but we have a certain amount of votes here, and sometimes we're treated politically as though we are just another neighborhood. But Girdwood is the home of the laundromat of the year. So there's lots going on here. And there's
Tell
a
me, I
big...
lost one of the cards.
Yeah.
Somebody
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. And also in here, if you haven't seen it before, is Neil Fried, a state economist profile on Girdwood. And I told you, it gives you a little bit. Girdwood is a unique part of Anchorage, and we're different, not bad for that, but we're just different for that.
Tom, is one of the maps in there?
What?
Is there a
Yes.
map? That is one big thing that the Girdwood Chamber does, is they produce the local maps of the area with.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what
I've
Well,
got
you've
the
got
brochure.
the authorities in there, yeah.
I'm on the chamber board, but somebody else is supposed to speak to it, otherwise I would happily get up and give a big formal thing to everybody. I can just briefly say that we've got over 75 members that are in the Girdwood Chamber of Commerce, and we're currently in our membership drive right now. We do make a fabulous map that goes throughout the state that lists a variety of basically heavy tourism-based businesses. However, hopefully over this next year, the Chamber will also be working on targeting some of the smaller businesses that are related to tourism to help build those businesses, such as plumbers, painters, etc., and providing an avenue for them to reach the Girdwood residents so that they know that they have local services to support their needs in town. So it's a small chamber, but yet it's a high tourism town. We've got a lot of dollars that come into our community, and so therefore it's an important aspect.
Thank you, Lene. Thanks, Tommy. And Glacier City Radio, I don't think Lewis is here.
I'm a listener.
Yeah. Everyone I think is a listener to radio. They do a great job.
And it just seems kind of funny he's not here.
You must be working.
Must be working.
And Girdwood Land Use, I don't know that I saw anyone for Girdwood Land Use. Sam, do you want to speak? I know you spoke a little bit to the history, but.
The Land Use Committee is active, alive, and well, and that, anything that's coming up whether it's roads or the South Girdwood town site. They give careful and dutiful consideration of what the community wants and always welcome the community's input at the meetings. A great group of volunteers, and they play an important role in the community, and I think we really need to continue through this dialogue about trying to help them to become perhaps the interface that is the community council for Girdwood. That's really all that I
The Girdwood Trails Committee. I know Carolyn was here earlier. Oh, there she is here.
Still here.
Hidden in the back.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Carolyn Rudy, I'm chair of the Girdwood Trails Committee. Girdwood Trails Committee was established in the past, can't remember for sure. We're a subcommittee advisory to the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. We meet the first Tuesday every month. I think I have missed more than a dozen meetings since we started it. We have a core group of about 7 or 8 people that is regularly attend meetings, and then we have a huge email group that follow us with our minutes and chime in if there's something they're interested in. When we were first formed back then, we were in the face of a lot of planning for development in Girdwood. The Girdwood area plan was just being written, the trails plan, and we were formed as a group to kind of be the watchdog of the trails and make sure as the development plan that the trails were dedicated and taken care of through the planning process. One of our original feats that we did was we needed the campground on there. I don't know how many of you have made it out to the campground over Winter Creek Gorge. We kind of got that idea. It's a very special place, and as a lot of the plans for development were being made, we wanted to make sure we drew attention to this beautiful place out there, and we had a way to enhance it and promote that area as what it was, and also to form a system now. Go up the Creek Trail, cross over, and originally go down Cook Creek Road. In the meantime, we've also been very instrumental. I guess I should back up and say we work very closely with the Forest Service for the local Glacier Ranger District. We have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with them, and we've worked closely with them establishing a Iditarod route all the way through the valley, starting down by the railroad tracks and all the way up through the valley. It actually comes right through here and then up Crow Creek Road and meeting up with the Crow Pass Trail. So, and so another couple other things for history. About 18 or 20 years ago, we started swimming in the winter about 5K with the trails. Really helped our kids. Back then, not only did when our kids were competing with enriched kids, we didn't have a track. I was a coach, and we were always trying to practice track. As I say, still do. But a lot of ice and snow and setting up hurdles in the parking lot and all that. But we also, the only place we had to ski, to actually practice space skiing was very nicely. The resort let us ski on the flat part right around the base of the lift. It's just kind of circles on the anyway, we started rooming about 5K with the trails and tracked a lot of people to start skiing. Right now, one of the things we're working on is we're developing a master plan for our trail system. We're formatted after the State Park Master Plan, and this will give us a nice tool to be able to apply for maybe some larger grants, big improvements on some of our trails. Right now, we kind of get little grants and not funding to the community and little things, but we'd like to be able to get a nice chunk.
I doubt any of you ever went on Stumpy's, and I think it's a much better one now.
You mentioned the Iditarod Trail. The Iditarod, the original serum run in 1912, it went from Seward to Nome carrying serum for diphtheria, came through Girdwood and went up Crow Creek Pass on into the interior. And there's history here.
I just want to add one thing. This young lady, a couple of weeks ago, when we were there, Jessica climbed up from like 9 times up in less than 10 hours from the bottom of the mountain.
Well, I was powered by two things. One, my sponsors, as I was raising money for food, let everyone know, and also French fries. French fries at the top there as well.
Madam Chair, can I ask a favor, since one of the things that makes Girdwood a little different than the Anchorage Bowl, but is similar to Treaty Act, is we do not have, Girdwood doesn't have APD, has state troopers, but what it does have is a volunteer fire department.
Yeah, I was gonna have Chief.
Yeah, the chief.
You weren't on our list, but I was gonna ask you to please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. My name is Bill Chadwick. I'd like to welcome you all down to Girdwood. I've been the fire chief here for 16 years. I'd like to spend a couple minutes to tell you about our fire department. Along with the 5-person paid staff, I've got 45 wonderful, incredibly well-trained and well-trained volunteers. We operate about $2.5 million worth of fire apparatus, cover 172 square miles that not only covers the Girdwood Valley service area here, but the southern half of the Anchorage area-wide EMS service area. So we respond to a lot of things. We've got a few things that make us really, really unique as far as fire departments in the municipality goes. We're a long way from help. Our nearest fire station to help is almost 35 miles away. I am really proud of our relationship with the Anchorage Fire Department. We have a lot of activities and training together, and if you look through the roster there, you'll see a lot of the Anchorage firefighters are former Girdwood firefighters, and I'm really, really happy with that and proud of all of them. This year, it looks like we've had 352 runs this year so far. It looks like we're going to respond probably to another 150 or so between now and through the Christmas season when we kind of get real busy down here. We've got some really good things going on. The thing that I'm probably the happiest with right now is we have an amazing program thanks to a very generous grant from FEMA, where we're able to take and provide any house and any family within the service area here with smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, home fire escape ladders, and fire extinguishers. Call us up, we go over to a visit, we give the kids the coloring books, we take a look at your house, we install the alarms, and we make sure they all work. It's a really, really good program, and we've seen our number of structure fires go down very significantly because of that. One of the other things that makes us really unique here is the fact that we have such an extensive and beautiful trail system. And one of the things that we're charged with as a fire department is not only keeping people safe in their homes, but keeping people safe in the area. So we've really spent a lot of time and effort the last couple of years to take and enhance our ability to go out, respond out onto the trail system, respond out into the backcountry, and be able to help people when they have difficulties out in the backcountry. A couple people I'd like to thank. I want to thank both my Assistant Fire Chief and Assistant EMS Chief, Rich Perry and Terry Keel back here. I'd like to also thank Manny Starhart, the rescue captain, as well as Ken Murphy here, who's here representing our board of directors. We're looking at growing along with the community here in the future. We're just getting started with the project to take and do some renovation on our fire station here, and that's just in the very initial stages, so I really don't have much to say about that. But again, I'd like to thank you all for coming down here, and if after this thing is open, if anybody wants a tour next door, I'd be really happy to do that for you. So thank you very much.
Ask a question. Are you still, Chief, are you still going to Whittier when they have issues down there?
We have, it's not as much as we have been. The City of Whittier's put a lot of time and effort into enhancing their fire department and their EMS. We have had a number of occasions where we will meet Whittier's ambulance out on the highway and provide them with advanced life support care on the way to the hospital when they request help from us. But we're not. A number of years ago we had some real problems with having to go over there a lot. But it's really kind of not as bad as it used to be.
Great, thank you.
The other thing is Seward Highway is getting safer with all the money that we've put into extra patrols for the troopers and some of the physical improvements we've made out there. We've seen and the establishment of the safety corps out there, we've seen our accidents out there increase significantly. It hasn't nearly solved the problem. Like Diana said, we'd really like to see it a 4-lane highway between here and town. And, maybe some year that'll happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Lynette, talk to us.
Pardon? Can I talk about task?
Sure.
All right, so my name is Lynette Doran, and I'm chairman for TASK, which you got a little brief update about that. It's the Trinity Armed Service Coalition, which takes care of the only child care facility that we have here, as well as the only clinic, and then working towards a fitness center for the community as well. Right behind you where the ball field is, the land was designated for the building or set aside for us 6.8 acres. And the most recent step that we have is sitting down with Mr. Kalis and discussing the future ownership and management of the facility. And so our goal is to now go before Rasmussen or the municipality to work towards going through that process of figuring out a structure that would be sustainable for our community and hopefully getting the funding. We've been on the CIP list for 2 years, going for a third year, and we're looking for $2.7 million to begin the design and permitting process for the building. An important thing to note with this facility is it wouldn't only service those 3 entities, but because Girdwood is similar to a bush community where we don't have other options for infrastructure and use, is that we have to work together a lot to make things happen. And so when we started this process a few years ago, we had reached out to different organizations in the community to ask if they saw that when this building was built that they could see using the facility as well. And so Challenge Alaska has said that they view that one day when we have this building that they could expand their services. Poor Valley's Community School also sees that they could be conducting some of their classes and expanding and doing what they do, as well as the Alaska Ski Club, to name a few organizations. And then also down the road, when we get to more specific designs of the building, it would be wonderful if we could bring some of the Roundhouse Museum art down into the facility to make it easier for tourists and Alaskans and community people to see it. Another concept that we would like to develop is possibly having a visitor center for tourists to come to. And then I'm trying to think of possibly bringing the arts down also into the facility if they're interested in having any participation in this structure. And so it took so many years to build the building that you're in right now, and it's taken multiple generations to get the school expanded to handle the population. That this is something that we know is going to take time, but we know it's going to be the next star in the community for a building that we can look at and that we know that we're using heavily. And on a side note, the fitness center side of TASK has also sat down with the Andrews School District as well as Poor Valley's Community School to express our strong interest in using the new expanded gym and indoor running track in hours beyond what we're currently doing. It's very expensive, and Poor Valley's can't currently afford to operate and have classes on the weekends or during the holiday time. But that's something that because youth and other age groups in our community don't have anywhere else to go, that we would like to expand kind of like a bush community does and have those doors available more often for the community. And so we are working with them to be able to do something like that. ASB has shown that they are interested in having some sort of a relationship like that with us as well. And so that is something that we look at as making our building even more cost effective than the beginning concepts are, because if we have a facility for a gym or an indoor running track over there, then we don't need to build a gym in the future fitness center or an indoor running track. And so as the process goes, we're really working on community involvement and discussions and making something that we can all be part of. Any questions about that?
I have a comment. Here in Girdwood, we've seen, this is evidence right now of people taking a long time and having the institutional patience and then the individual patience to see projects through. Just right over there is the Nisman Pavilion and the Marlowe Pavilion built by volunteers here. I have total confidence, even though it's an awesome project. I mean, it's like, whoa. I have total confidence that it will come to pass because of our stable community here, and people like Lou Thies has been working for 10 or 15 years to get the school, the bond going on here. There's a certain transiency in our community, but there are a lot of people who've been here for a long, long time. And Pat and I, well, he was here before me, but our kids grew up together, and they're almost 30 years old now. We worked on projects that have taken more than a couple weeks to pull off. So we are really positive about this community project. And again, we're isolated or separated by a great distance from Anchorage and other facilities, and so we feel like it's an important part of becoming a destination resort to serve recreational needs of our community. I think we can do it.
Thank you, Tom. Any other questions for Renee? Is there anyone out in the audience that is with a local group here that would like to, that I missed? I know there's a couple missing.
Does anybody have any questions for us?
Such a quiet group.
I thought I might introduce myself. I know a lot of people in this room. I'm Sam Combs, and I'm running for the State House. I work with Chris on projects, John on projects. That laundromat you mentioned, Honey, was that Danny's project over there?
Yeah.
I was the architect on that project too. I'm an architect. I'm not a politician. I won't get into anything on the campaign. I think, Sam, we're having a get-together at your house tomorrow from 12 to 1:30. I'll be at the post office tomorrow morning. We live on Upper O'Malley Road. In fact, we live on Hideaway Lake, right across from Jennifer. We're on the north side of the lake. Been there for about 22 years. Been in Anchorage for 59 years. I learned to ski at Alyeska when I was a kid. We got here my third birthday, July 8th, 1955. And I've got my door hangers and my contribulos here, so the treasurer would be, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. We've got signs out in the car, so I look forward to meeting and talking with those that I don't know and meeting everybody that I do know. Thanks.
Thank you. One thing I'll mention is our last budget work session is Monday, 6 o'clock here in the same room. And we'll be voting on the budget at our next regular GBS meeting, which I think is the 21st. And at that time, doing the grants announce. Does the Assembly have anything else they would like to say?
Once again, thank you for accommodating our schedule and welcoming us to your community. It's been helpful for those of us who don't live down here, learn a little bit more about what you do. Thank you to Mrs. Johnston and Mr. Evans for helping to coordinate this. And I believe they had a little get together for everybody afterwards. I can smell the cuisine.
Costco at Advice.
And again, our appreciation.
And thank you to Sue Kennedy, who is putting it all out.
I want to thank the Assembly for providing the snacks for this meeting. And I think you plan to be here for a little while to socialize and eat.
if people were too shy to shout at us while we're having a formal meeting, we'll get around to button holes later, so.
I want to thank everyone for coming today, and unless I hear something different, I think we will adjourn.